Hey there. Esee has always made really good camp knives, survival knives, really well received, real strong fans. Lots of love for Esee from pretty much everyone. You can't say anything bad about them. However, I was never particularly fond of the basic handle design. The slab thin micarta handles never really quite did it for me. However, that's all changed now because they've gone ahead and started re-releasing the classic Esee models, the 3, the 4 and the 6 so far. Not sure about the 5, but they've gone ahead and rounded off them handles, so they are still slab style, but now they're round and fit much better in the hand. Still same recipe as usual, 1095 steel micarta handles. They've simply rounded them off. This will be my review of the SE4 with the modified handles. SE4 HM. So the SE4 is, funnily enough, a 4-inch blade, micarta handled survival knife. Survival knife is the words of Esee. They market their knives as survival tools. They are a survival training company. However, I think this one fits best into the role of general camp knife. I think certain elements make it ideal for just wearing on your belt around the camp. Pretty much any possible circumstance, it'll have a reasonable crack at getting it done. So you've got a full flat ground blade. You've got it covered in this sort of Esee powder coating, which they've been using for a while now, or for as long as I think I've known them to be making knives. It's kind of like it just feels like a powder coating. It's not as rough as some other powder coatings, but it still isn't smooth by any stretch. But it's to protect the 1095 steel from getting rusty. Esee has an amazing warranty, but the one thing they don't warrant against is rust. So take care of your knife and you'll be fine. So it's 3/16 thick. And it's got a nice, much thicker handle. It's about 1 inch thick now, the handle, whereas it used to be about 0.75 inch thick. Fills out the hand much better, almost feeling like a broomstick style bushcraft handle. Really well done. Slight curvature back towards the palm of your hand, and a natural finger guard, which will stop your finger from going up onto the knife in all but the most ridiculous of circumstances. The blade comes really sharp. The 1095 steel is a proven outdoor steel. This one comes at a 57 Rockwell, so it'll be able to be a bit tougher, but probably not hold its edge as long as perhaps your VG10s or your 3Vs or whatever. Although in my edge testing, saying that, it did do as well as VG10. So there you go. Very good overall basic knife, and I love the looks of it. Just nice and basic. Nothing too flash, nothing too kooky, a nice respectable knife design. Lots of billboarding on the side there, but I think you go into an Esee knowing that you're going to get at least that. On the other side is just made in the USA, and Rowan is the heat treating company, in case you're ever curious about why it says Rowan on lots of Ontario and Esee products. Or the steel heat treating, whatever company. So yeah, let's have a look at the SE4 handle mod in some use. I'm just going to call it the SE4 from now on. You know what I'm talking about. If you're ever worried about what knife I'm reviewing, just look down at the title of the review. Sort of in line with this new sort of, I guess, wood carving friendly handle, they've gone and got a leather style bushcrafty sheath, I guess. Well, I mean, of course leather sheaths aren't bushcrafty. Sheaths have been in leather for much longer than they've been in kydex. However, now that's kind of what companies do when they want to sell their knife that's for, you know, Woodcraft and all that sort of thing. They put it in a leather sheath, and when they want the tactical or survival type model, they put it in a kydex sheath. It's just kind of like, it's kind of something that they communicate to us, the consumers, really. This is a fine sheath. I wish the Bark River sheath was this simple. It just goes in, it's held pretty well, it sits upright, it's not too high, it doesn't poke you in the side. It's just a good basic leather sheath. There is nothing wrong with it at all. And it's quite nice leather. It says Esee in quite large letters on it. If you know, as long as that doesn't bother you, I think you'll be just fine. Just like with any leather sheath, just make sure you do a waterproofing treatment on it. I've already done that because I'm out kayaking on the river at the moment, but I haven't noticed any waterlogging or drenching so far, and it has got wet and it has dried out, so no problems there. Now, I don't know what you think about batoning, but it's kind of a YouTube standard, and really, I don't particularly do this a great deal with my knives. I think I said before, I'll generally just batten one log at the start, just to get those 4 pieces of good workable wood. But in this sort of scenario, it is really just for for you guys' benefit, just to say that the knife isn't weak as piss. I just have to go, whoops, I just have to go this way because the knife isn't actually long enough, which is probably quite telling as to what its capabilities are supposed to be. That's all. Derp. It's not a particularly glamorous activity in real life. Batoning. It's kind of fun though. There is a charm to it, you must admit. It's silly, but it's kind of nice seeing the wood come apart, all that sort of thing. Jeez, gone and picked myself a pretty gnarly bit. This has gone right across the middle. So if this is going to fail the knife, if anything I'm going to do is going to fail this knife, it'll be this. It's one crazy hard bit of wood. I actually would not be surprised if a lesser knife would have broken by now, that's for sure. It's right down the centre and it's a really horrible bit of wood. So worst case scenario, we'll be reviewing that SE warranty very shortly. Because it's a short knife, I have to smash it right on the tip as well. This is knife abuse, guys, so I don't really particularly think you should use your knives like this, but I'm a gear reviewer, so I guess I do, so you don't have to, maybe. Unless you just get off on doing this sort of thing yourselves, which I understand. I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't slightly feel that way. That is horrible. That's just, it's actually bending the knife in the wood. This is fighting me every step of the way. Should be coming to that point of no return fairly soon though. In my opinion, the steel should always beat the wood, but then I guess there's so much energy in there right now that you can sort of see sometimes, especially when you've got your hand on the handle, feeling those cracks, you can see sometimes why the knife doesn't necessarily win. So it's coming, it is coming. Ah, that's a relieving sound, hearing the wood give and not the knife. It's always that shock horror moment sometimes where you pull the edge out, and as I've had in the past, and the edge is just gone. You're left with a bit of steel in there. But I think with Esee, you're pretty safe that it's going to come out just right. But it's not without some trepidation though, folks, that's for sure. Just for a bit of a word on batoning, as I said while I'm doing it, I'm a YouTube reviewer, and part of that is I get the knives knowing that I might break them, and that's kind of part of the, I know it's a difficult to quantify thing, I don't know why I enjoy it, but I get the knives knowing that things I do to them aren't particularly going to be all good for the knife or all within that intended purpose. I guess the thing I say to myself is that it's just building up that data that, you know, there's another guy who's been able to put this little knife through some horrible wood and the knife survived. So it's kind of a bit of a, it's a bit of a group, a bit of a hive mind, us reviewers are, just getting any sort of, any flaws or anything out of the knives. And you know what, if this knife broke just then, it wouldn't be a flaw on this knife, it would just be I used the knife for something I'm not really supposed to use a 4-inch knife for, and it broke. My bad. So I'd never be super critical of a knife like this, breaking in wood like that. It is marketed as a survival knife, so I guess you should be able to do a bit more of the intense stuff with it, but really, it is more just for a, I'm trying to show how good the knife is by showing that it can do that, rather than, I'm not trying to fail it and show that, and then say the knife's terrible. Something I guess I'm in reflection over the Boca Vox rolled business. See, that I still think that was marketed as a survival knife, and that it's you know, it should be able to split wood that's, you know, almost the diameter of the knife. I think when you market a knife as a survival knife, you do kind of give yourself a bit more of an expectation that it's gonna work just fine, and Esee does that too. So, and as you see, it's worked just fine. However, in day-to-day use, you're never going to do any of these things. As I said, I'll baton a couple of times. I'll never choose horrible thick bits of wood like that with knots all down them or anything like that. Like if the wood looks like that from the side, I mean this was branching off to become another limb. Like that's a horrible thing to put a knife through. So just a bit of an aside on batoning, I'll never completely slag off a knife. Not anymore anyway, if it does break doing unreasonable things like that. It's an interesting thing. I just feel like you get a lot of flack for batoning knives, and I've gotten flack for breaking knives by people who support that knife. I know, supporting a knife, I don't know. I think all you can really say, especially if you're commenting on someone's knife video, or if you're taking a data point from your own work with a knife, is that my particular knife did this for me. My particular knife could do this for me. So my particular SE4 can batten through this gnarly wood, and if you look through YouTube, you'll see a lot of other people's particular SE4s can do that too. So from that you can get a good data point about what the SE4 can do. And that's all sort of, that's the reason why I batten wood. So just a little aside, it's never going to be the end of the world if a knife either can't do it or breaks during it. It's probably the most extreme task that I'll put a blade through in my little bunch of testing. So I just thought I'd talk about that for a sec. The knife's still very sharp from batoning. As I often say, batoning isn't a test of the edge of the knife, it's just a test of the overall strength of the knife. So really, if the knife's going to just snap or bend, and as you can see it's still dead straight. So really, you don't put a great deal of damage on your edge from batoning. On a flat grinds wear batoning a bit more than other knives because there's no relief. The wood hugs both sides of the knife really, really tightly, but the edge is still a separate angle to those flat ground faces. So it's never really doing too much of a number on the edge. What will do a number on the edge is chopping. Chopping will really wear the edge of a knife out, especially if you're chopping against hardwoods. Sort of has that effect of kind of whacking the knife against, it's like whacking a knife against a rock really. So this is really hard wood here. If I did that for a while, that would dull the knife really, really quickly. Carving, not too bad because really, I mean here, this part here is a knot, so it's really kind of glassy and hard. But generally when you're carving, you're going with the ply of the wood anyway, so all I'm doing now is peeling. I'm going with the wood and I'm just peeling off plies of it, which isn't really too strenuous on the knife edge. Geez, this knife is so much more comfortable to use than a normal Esee. It really, really is. The micarta is a little bit rough in your hand, like as in, as the knife twists as I press into this wood, it does kind of, no, it doesn't burn, but you can definitely feel it. But really, in terms of just holding it in your hand, it's just a real winner. Like you can see when you take your hand off the micarta what parts are really wearing the brunt of your grip, and it's really, really nice and even. Like it darkens here, it darkens under here. It's yeah, it's done really, really well, and it was a really good choice of them to start redoing their classic blades with this new handle, in my opinion. So, I mean, you won't have any problems. If you're really good at wood carving, you probably do prefer like a Scandi ground knife or something like that, but for making little curls like this, which are good for just chucking in like the beginnings of a fire, you'll have no worries doing it. And this is on this really hard, glassy, horrible Australian gum, so just this is about as nasty as, in my opinion, about as nasty as wood gets to use knives on, especially when it's dead and gone like this stuff is. You just see how swirly it is. It's just full of knots, and the wood's just going all different ways, branching out everywhere. See down here, this is what I was chopping against just before, and it's just like a little knot. Really, really horrible wood. Our wood in Australia is just something else. It is nuts. Just especially once it's dried and dead, is really, really hard to work with. It burns for a long, long time though, which is good. So this is, like red gum wood like this will be most of the firewood that you buy, and especially get a stump of it or something really dense. Really great for your home fireplace, all that sort of thing. Just in case you're interested on what the wood is like in Australia, it is hard and scary like everything else that lives here, except for the people really. The people are kind of the same as everywhere else. I think we're a bit more easygoing though, a bit less inclined, a bit less prone to hysteria. It's something I'm quite proud of with Australia. Alright, so the SE4 is much improved by this rounded handle. It's now a really, really good general purpose camp knife, and it'll do really, really abusive hard tasks as well. The 1095 steel will dull quicker than some other steels, but it is very, very tough, and it's something that you can sharpen in the field pretty much with a rock. It's not hard stuff to care for. All you need to do is when you get back from whatever adventure you go on, just give it a quick polish again along the edge, make sure it's not too grubby, coat it with some WD-40, and just leave it outside of its sheath on a shelf somewhere until you're ready to pick it up again. I'm really happy with the 4-inch blade. I think it's a good length, and I think it carries really well in its leather sheath, which is good for the money especially. The price of this knife is about $160 in Australia. I know that's expensive, but I think you're going to get something that has a really good warranty for one, so you can potentially have this knife for your whole life, or a knife of this type for your whole life, because they'll keep replacing it. And overall, I think in terms of just durability and comfort, it's I've really knocked it out of the park on this one. Who would have thought that going in and just changing the handle would make a pretty good blade into a really, really excellent camp knife. Thanks very much for watching, dudes. Power to the people. See you later.